Hi guys, welcome back to the FlyMe Flight Simulator today. We're going to be doing Alicante to Palma de Mallorca. We're currently sat on stand Echo 6 down at Alicante, and yeah, it should be a nice flight. So you know me, I'm Ollie, well I think you do. And joining me today is Liam. He's one of our guest pilots, and I'll let Liam introduce himself.
Yeah, hello everybody. Liam, pleasure to be here. I know Ollie, I've known him for quite a while. I'm actually a commercial pilot and I am rated on the 737, so be an interesting flight today. Quite a short flight, Alicante to Palma, but should be getting some good views on the approach to Palma. It's quite a nice approach. Yep.
Sounds good. We're all happy to rock and roll.
So where we're at, just to get all the audience in the loop, we're already on stand at Alicante. And what stand is it, Ollie, that we're on?
Currently on Echo 6.
So we're on Echo 6. I'll be pilot flying today, Ollie's pilot monitoring. Obviously sat in the captain's seat. That role is reversed to whoever's flying. Whoever's flying is pilot flying, whoever's monitoring is pilot monitoring. And typically on a two-sector day, so a flight out to a destination and a flight back, you would split them roles up. So one of you would fly out as pilot flying, one of you would fly back, and you'd flip the role when you're down route.
Yeah.
So today this will be my sector onwards to Palma. So in real life, with me being pilot flying, I would have come into the flight deck initially, done the initial setup, which is where we're at now. We've essentially got ground power, all the systems that are on. You would have been doing the walk around,
catching a bit of sun.
Yeah, today it's quite nice today, isn't it? Yeah. You would have been doing the walk around, and I would you would come and join me back in the flight deck, having spoke to the refueler, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would then start. I would carry on my setup. So hopefully the audience can see. I will. I'd put the yaw damper on, just basically checking each panel as we go down in a methodical and structured manner, to make sure that all the switches and systems are exactly where we expect them to be. We can see ground power's in use at the minute. The wipers are parked. The lights are all off. APU's not in use at the minute. On this particular flow, which is one of the early ones that I will be doing, I'll be putting the window heats all four on, making sure that the lights come on. Probe heats would remain in the off or auto position at this stage, and the anti-ice would be off. Hydraulic pumps, the engine hydraulic pumps remain on throughout, unless there's a maintenance issue or something. Right. And the electric hydraulic pumps are off at this stage. Obviously the main lighting panel there, everything's extinguished. Engine start switches are in off, and the igniters are on the right. Voice recorder switch we would put on, and making sure the temperature and air conditioning panel are how we expect, which they are at the minute. Altitude there, I'm sure many of you viewers will be familiar with this. This is the planned flight level or altitude that we plan on getting to on the flight. So as you can see there, we've got 20,000 or flight level 200, which is what we're planning on flying. So it's quite a short sector, so we're not going to have much chance to get much higher than that.
Yep.
Landing altitude is set to our destination, and that in effect is set, and that allows the pressurization system to work out what the elevation, what the pressure should be when we land. So essentially you're not going to have any issues opening doors, and passengers are not going to be put to any discomfort. Checking the further lighting, anti-collision, that should be off actually at this stage. Checking all the switches are off there, logo lights, strobes would be off, anti-collision off, wing lights and wheel well lights. That would have probably been on while you're doing your walk around for obvious reasons. When you stick your rope in the wheel wells, even on a relatively smallish aircraft, it's not a Dreamliner or anything, or a 747, but it's quite dark in them wheel wells. So that would be off now, because you're obviously coming back and join me. I do an oxygen pressure drop test here, making sure that the mask is as it should be, checking for the drop on the pressure, the oxygen system. I've then come up to this panel here, which your viewers might not be able to see, but I'm just covering my displays and making sure they're set to normal, and that the test light switch is working as it should. obviously checking everything as it should. This becomes very natural after you've done it a few times, that it's more of a cursory glance, but you are checking for specific things. Obviously down 3 greens. It'd be an issue if we didn't have down 3 greens and we're on the ground.
We would be down then, yeah.
The auto brake at this stage I would set to RTO in preparation for a departure. I'd reset the fuel flow. I would be checking that everything on the centre pedal, still thrust levers, flap lever, etc. looks as it should do. I'd do a fire test, checking that the appropriate lights and annunciations are shown, fault and APU detecting up, wheel well, fire, and that the caution can be cancelled, which it has done. Same for the extinguishers. And I would work down setting the comms as we need for the departure, which we've already done today, Ollie, haven't we?
Yes.
And my panel as well, and making sure that the communications panel is where it should be for us to talk easily to each other and to the cabin crew. At this stage, then, I would, as pilot flying, ordinarily I'd set up the route, which we have pre-done just to save time today, really.
All that
so
stuff, yeah.
We've done the performance, we've set up the FMC, we've got a route in, and I'd then, passengers are getting on. It's probably quite warm in Alicante today, so I'd say, would you like the APU starting?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Obviously, already done the system check, tested the fire switch, so we'll get the APU running. We've got centre tank fuel today, so we just put the fuel pump on there to assist. And while that's coming online, I'd be double checking the FMC, making sure that we've got the route set up, performance as we're expecting. Obviously, during a normal line flight at this point, the fueler would be just about finishing, handing the fuel receipt to the dispatcher on the ground. Passengers would probably be more than likely boarding at this stage, and we'd be liaising with the dispatcher on board, passing paperwork and the load sheet, etc., which gives us a breakdown of how many passengers we've got on board, how much fuel, and the balance and the weight and the trim to keep the aircraft in an appropriate flight envelope for departure. So APU is available now, so we can see that the APU gen off bus light is lit. So we've put the APU on the bus. That means that the electricity supply now is coming from the APU. It was.
It was for a second.
It was. Put the ground power back on.
Get rid of that bit anyway.
It's quite a sensitive switch there. Just get that going.
There we go.
So the electricity supply now is coming from the APU, which is the auxiliary power unit. It's basically a small jet engine right on the tail of the aircraft. There's usually be a man down here that's asking if you can disconnect the GPU, and the GPU is the ground power unit. It looks like a small box tractor thing, and it's basically just a generator that's running on fuel outside that's generating power for us while we've not got any of our own onboard power. So I would give him the signal to disconnect.
I'll little Miguel that is he? Right, I'll get rid of the GPU. That's gone.
I'd start the timer, give it a couple of minutes just for the APU to run before applying air from the APU. That just means that there's no fumes or unpleasant smells coming into the cabin. We'll assume we've done that, and we can put the APU air onto the also the flight deck, but also the cabin. So we're now running purely on his own internal systems. The load sheet would have been handed to us. We'd be cross-checking the load sheet between us, Ollie, making sure that everything's as in order, and you just work through it methodically from the top to the bottom. We don't have a load sheet today, but in essence it covers things like the date, the time, the flight number, the registration of the aircraft, the fuel that we've told them. Obviously we know what the fuel is now. All that needs to tally up. The passengers that we're expecting. So obviously passengers that you expect before you get to the aircraft might be different to what is actually for the passengers that do actually end up boarding, and that can be for various reasons. Passengers might check in on recent times with COVID and PCR tests and things. Obviously everything's a bit different, so sometimes people don't end up actually getting on board, but even more so in recent years people are checking in online. So obviously they look to be on paper checked in, but actually they've never made it to the airport. So
yeah.
all these fine details are sort of rectified and dealt with prior to us closing the doors, prior to the dispatcher leaving the aircraft. And we would input the detail based on the load sheet. We'd put all that into the FMC, which we have done today, and we've got as takeoff speeds here, which are V1 146, rotate speed of 146 also, and a V2 speed 147. So if we're flying on single engine, that's as minimum speed that we need to be. It's going to be higher than that, but that's as absolute bare minimum. So we would discuss that. Cabin crew would liaise with us. If we're lucky, we might get a drink. And we'd be discussing things. I've done my pre-flight check. You would have done a similar flow, covering similar things, but your side and some other extra bits that we won't go into today, just to save time. We would check the legs and distances on the departure. I mean, it's up to you, Ollie. Do you want to go through a brief?
We'll run through that now. Confirm Mythos 3 Alpha, was it, for departure?
So if I just do it as my brief initially, so I'd cover it from the basics. So I'd start probably, particularly with currency not being particularly good for many pilots at the minute due to restricted flying and COVID and everything. But I'd start from the top. So I'd start with the aircraft that we're on, the status of the aircraft. Is everything serviceable? Is everything as it should be? Or have we got things that we can't use, but we can still take the aircraft? So the things might be inoperative that we'd need to discuss so that we're aware of it. So status of the aircraft, the weather, and obviously somewhere like Alicante this time of year, fairly benign generally, so there's not much to say. And because there's not much to say, you don't really need to labour the point. It's just a given, you know. It's less is more really, because you can end up with briefs going on and on and on, and people switch off. And the whole thing is to keep both crew members in the loop. And you know, involved in the discussion. So status of the aircraft, weather, any NOTAMs to affect us on the departure. Not so much on the arrival, because we're going to have time for another arrival brief, but we might, if it's pertinent, particularly on a short flight like this, it might be relevant. You know, they've only got one runway at Palma in use. We'd want to discuss that now, because that might affect how much fuel we take, because they might be busier, we might have to hold, that kind of thing. And then we go into the routing. So I'd probably ask you, Ollie, are you familiar with Alicante? You know where we are parked. Have you been here before?
Not had the pleasure, no.
No. So a bit on the taxi routing then. So where did we say we were? Echo
6. Echo 6, just in between 6 Bravo and 6 Charlie, which we've got there.
Yeah. So if you agree, I would suggest probably a likely taxi routing would be there'd be no push back crew here, so we can just self-position off Echo onto Bravo, which we see over to your left there, excuse me. A right turn onto Bravo 1, and follow the taxiway down, all the way to the end, and we'll do performance from the end of the runway. Sometimes there's intersection departures on various airports, particularly bigger airports on longer runways, and that just means that you can get more aircraft in and out at the same time. And we'd always run performance from the worst case scenario, i.e. the shortest intersection, because obviously if you've got performance that's fine for a short departure, if you do the full length of the runway, you're going to be fine. If that makes sense. But none of that to here. We're just going to be departing on 10 out of Alicante. So that covers that. Do you want to quickly run through the tracks and distances?
So we've got Mythos 3 Alpha.
And so because I've entered the details on the FMC, if you can read it from the FMC, Ollie, today. And I'll double check that what I've put in is correct, and it's just a good cross check for both of us then.
Just check. So it'll be climb on runway heading to 2.8 DME. Then it'll be a left-hand turn, 055 degree track to Sumo, to intercept the radial 067, and just we'll check that via Sumo to Mythos. That's for the Mythos 3 Alpha.
So we're expecting a clear flight level of initially
50
above, So it's got your initial clearance climb to 6,000. Obviously no ATC, so we'll just assume that they've cleared us direct as per the SID up to flight level 100. Do you want to do that?
So
So yeah, we assume we've got the clearance. We can set that to 100.
100.
And even though obviously we're in a very modern aircraft with GPS and very efficient navigation, I always personally like to set up VORs and backup aids. So I've got the 1138 Alpha Lima Tango VOR set there, and the initial radial to pick up would be 067.
Checked. I've got VOR 2 my side.
Yeah, and I'll take. Yeah, so we're happy with the taxi out. In the routing, there's not a lot to say about the SID. Sorry. So if we just do a standard brief, what I would generally cover. So if there's any issues on the startup or the taxi out, obviously you're controlling the aircraft because the tiller's on your side.
Checked.
I'll keep air traffic control informed of the situation and ask them for what we need. And obviously they may ask us to move to a different part of the airport to try and keep taxiways clear and stuff.
Yep.
But any issues, yeah, I'll keep ATC informed. Once we line up on the runway, we'll stop for any malfunction up to 80 knots. You're obviously captain, so you'd be controlling the aircraft on a rejected takeoff. But I'll be announcing what I see. Once you've announced reject, or equally, I could say the same, because depending on what I see that you might have missed. But once you've taken some positive control of the aircraft, thrust levers and things, I'll assume you've got control, and I'll assume role of pilot monitoring.
Check.
I'll follow you through on your actions, making sure that you close the thrust levers, you lift the speed brake, match reverse thrust depending on what we need, and I'll pay attention to the auto brake, announce what I see. Once we've come to a safe stop and we're through 60 knots, I'll tell ATC that we're stopping, and I'll ask them to stand by just to give us a bit of time to discuss things. Something like, probably the worst situation would be something like an uncontrollable or uncontained engine fire, where it's obvious we're not going to be putting it out. So I'd ask for the fire service. I'd get the frequency 1216 set up so I can liaise with them.
Yeah.
You would have obviously already told cabin crew to stand by. We would then just come together, pause for a few seconds, not unnecessarily long, but just get us heads in the same zone and decide on why we'd stopped. If it needed a checklist, I'd dive into the QRH, we'd make sure we'd done everything, and if it resulted in evacuation, we'd liaise with fire, and they may well say keep everybody on board while they deal with the fire, but we'll deal with that as it happens. Yeah. After 80 knots up to V1, same stopping procedure really, but we're only going to stop for major items such as an engine fire, an engine failure, where the aircraft becomes uncontrollable, majorly blocked runway, something that's going to cause us some serious damage. As I say, same stopping procedure. Obviously after V1, once the aircraft's called V1, we have to take the issue into there because there's insufficient runway remaining to stop safely. So we take the issue into the air, and if it was something like an engine failure just before rotation or just after rotation, I'd control the aircraft. Obviously very difficult, very busy time for me. So you can assist where you can. I'd probably ask for heading select initially. Although the SID does keep us clear of any terrain, but heading select would just keep us make it slightly easier. For those of you that are familiar with Alicante, runway 10 climbs straight out over the sea, so there's no issues with terrain. We have got terrain though behind us, so we want to really pick a point to hold somewhere out to sea, and we can liaise with ATC for that. But we'll do any memory items that we need for an engine failure. There may not be any, but if there are any, we'd do them. Do the checklist, pick a suitable place to hold, liaise with cabin crew and passengers if we've got time, and then we'd speak to ATC, declare a mayday, and probably come back in here, I would suggest. We've got to think of option. Primarily the number one thing is safety, obviously. But we also at some point need to consider, from a commercial point of view, the for the customer's point of view, where do they want to be? Well, they've just left here. We've got a base here. We can get onward travel arranged. It's probably easier if we come back here, but if we can't because we've blocked the runway, we'll have to discuss other options, and we know Barcelona's not very far away. So that covers that. The SID we've discussed, we're happy with that. Non-normals we've discussed, and any threats. Well, threats today, what do you think the threats are, Ollie, today?
Reasonably short sector.
Yeah, good point.
So potentially high workload management at some point.
Absolutely.
So currency for Alicante.
Yeah, currency for everybody, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll manage that with if we need to slow down or stop, or not stop in the air, but if we need to stop on the taxi routing, we will do.
Yeah.
And if we need to slow down in the air, we can do to buy us some time.
We've
got plenty of fuel.
I can't.
No, I think you've covered them there. Short sector. Lots to do. It's going to be busy because obviously we've got Palma to discuss as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we've checked legs and distances, and whenever you want, Ollie, you can call for pre-flight checklist.
Pre-flight checklist.
Pre-flight checklist coming up. So oxygen
is tested 100%.
Tested 100%. Navigation, transfer, display switches, they're normal and auto. Window heats are on, part of that flow that I did earlier. Pressurization mode selector is set to auto. And flight instruments?
Flight instruments, heading 189, altimeter 1021.
Yeah, so heading is 189, altimeter 1021. And I'm checking mine, Ollie's the standby. I'm just checking it against the good old-fashioned compass there as well, just to make sure everything looks sensible, because that's why we've still got a compass, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Parking brake
is set.
And then your start levers.
Cut off.
Yes, that's pre-flight checklist complete. Do you want me to call for push and start? So we speak to ATC.
One thing I'm just going to do is the trim went out.
Oh yeah.
So just pull up your takeoff page for me.
5.25 units.
Runway heading here 100.
Yeah, I mean, just put 100. That'd be close enough, won't it? I forgot to say actually, I'd be departing in VNAV and LNAV. So if you could arm that for me, please.
Yep. So I'll give you master flight director. And LNAV, VNAV, that's set.
And 147 for
that's
the V2 heading set and auto throttle out. Cool. So yeah, we've closed up. Cabin crew said everybody's on board.
Yep.
We're on the zone power. Yep. And seatbelt signs are now on. So yeah, I suppose they've given us clearance to start. So before start checklist.
Before start checklist.
So flight deck doors closed, locked. Fuel, we've got 12.7 tons. Pumps. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I should do my pre-flight flow first. Let me just do this. Yep. Okay, so before start checklist.
Before start checklist.
Flight deck doors closed and locked. Fuel 12.7. The pumps are now all on. Passenger signs are on. Windows
closed and locked.
Locked. MCP
is V2 147 heading 100, altitude 10,000 feet.
Yeah, it's flight level in it, so there's another threat there, so we need to remember to set standard at suitable time. Takeoff speed, so V1146, VR146 and V2147. CDU pre-flight completed. Rudder aileron trim
is 3 and 0.
Taxi takeoff briefing's completed and the anti-collision light is on, so that's before start checklist complete.
Checked.
So I think you said good for engine start, so whenever you want.
Cool, and start engine number 2.
Okay, no, engine number 2 selected. Yeah, thanks. Starting 2.
Checked.
So both crew members now are monitoring the engine start. Ollie's going to introduce fuel when we get to 25% N2. Ensure that the engine valve close lights extinguish. Monitoring EGT, exhaust gas temperatures increasing. N1's increasing slowly. Got a fuel flow. Oil pressure's rising. Oil temperature is sensible. And so that would go automatic in the real aircraft. But yeah, so 56% that's, and I would say start to cut out.
Checked and start engine number 1.
So engine number 1 selected, starting 1. And same again for the other engine. If it were a longer taxi, somewhere like particularly places like Heathrow or Charles de Gaulle, in all honesty, it would probably do a single engine taxi.
Yeah.
For operation, it's cheaper, it's better for the environment, and it saves wear and tear on the engine. It's not a very long taxi here, so. There's Ollie introducing fuel again, 25%. Engine valve lights extinguished. start to cut out.
Check.
So I would then go into my flow. You would liaise with ground at this stage. I would put the engine generators on there. So like we had the electricity coming from the APU before, now we've got them from the engines. Put the probe heats on, put the packs to auto and the isolation valve to auto. The APU bleed can go because we're going to be turning the APU off. They would go to continuous, the engine start switches for departure. Turn the APU off now, and I'll just cross check everything. Auto brake, following it down, and transponder can also go on at this stage onto transponder. We'd liaise with ground crew, they can disconnect. Got 2 good starts, and they'd say see you on the left, bye bye. I would cancel the lower DU, and you would do the you want that up.
Flight controls.
And I'd follow you through on the flight controls, Alex.
Full up, neutral, full down, neutral, full left, neutral, full right, neutral and rudder, full left, neutral, full right, neutral.
And then I would cancel the lower display unit, check recall, and you would then call me for the
before taxi checklist.
Indeed you would. So before taxi checklist, generators on, probe heat on, anti-ice is off as briefed and as per the weather conditions today. Isolation valve auto, engine start switch is continuous, recall
is checked,
auto brake RTO, flap lever, I should have said that actually, that's my bad. So flap lever
is 5.
Engine start levers,
idle detent,
and flight controls
are checked,
and ground equipment.
It's clear on the left.
Clear on the right. So flap levers, 5 green light. I missed that one.
That's checked.
So I'd liaise with ATC and request taxi. So let's assume that they've given us taxi instructions as per what we briefed, really. So clear to taxi.
Just have the taxi
light on,
please. All good.
Yep.
Flight rate's coming off.
So as pilot monitoring now, you might think, well, I'm a bit redundant. Ollie's doing the steering, Ollie's doing the, Ollie's controlling the thrust levers. But actually, it's equally as important as pilot monitoring to be keeping a good lookout, speaking to ATC, changing frequencies as required, also liaising with cabin crew. At some point during this taxi out, cabin crew would buzz us, I'd answer. And personally, I always put a little mark on my crib sheet just to say that we've had a cabin secure, which means everybody's seated, everybody's safe and fit for departure.
So it'll be
not so bad at places. Be a right turn here. I agreed. Not so bad at places like Alicante or quieter places, but you can imagine at a busy airport like Heathrow, Manchester, Paris. The last thing you want to be doing as you line up when there's 3 aircraft on final is, did we actually get cabin secure? And having to buzz the cabin crew.
Makes
so
sense,
me just writing that note down, it just means it's a quick cross check. So not a very long taxi out. We'd discuss at this point if there's any changes to what we've briefed already, which I can't think of any today.
No.
So whenever you're happy, you can call for the before
takeoff checklist.
Indeed. So before takeoff checklist, flaps.
It's 5 green light.
Stabiliser trim
is 5.25 units.
That's the before takeoff checklist complete. And Ryanair 6 Delta Papa cleared to line up runway 10, line up only. Okay, so we're cleared to line up. I would put inboard and runway lights on at this stage, and as we get a bit nearer, put the strobe to on.
So line up, is it strobes and transponder, is it?
I would do that, And I'd also discuss with you if you want to use terrain or weather. I mean, it's quite fine for us to both to have terrain if that's the most relevant
so
thing. I mean, there's no weather
terrain
today, so I'll take terrain as well.
And we're going down to the end.
So you're quite right, it said there, yes, so we're cleared to line up. We'd obviously check that there's nothing on final. I'd put the strobes on. Transponder can go to TCAS, and we'd use the TCAS display as well just to see if there's anyone on final approach. It's line up only. We know it's line up only because we've not got every landing light set at the minute. And probably at this point you might say Ryanair 8 Delta Bravo cleared departure, cleared takeoff. So 8 Delta Bravo cleared takeoff runway 10. So I'd do that. As pilot monitoring now, I always like to have a good final scan round just to make sure everything is as it should be, which today I think it looks okay. So everything looks sensible.
And you have control?
I have control. Are you ready for departure then?
I am.
Here we go. Nice and straight that, Ollie, for me, thank you. So I'm going to set 40% N1. Make sure that the engines are stabilised.
And set takeoff first.
Slight forward pressure on the control column initially.
Thrust set.
Check.
$80 knots.
Check.
Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up. LNAV.
Check.
LNAV VNAV speed.
Check. Flap 1.
Flaps 1. And 1.
And flap up.
Flaps up.
Not quite in trim there.
Sometimes controls you need to level them, yeah, it's simism. Just try it now. There
we go. Come on. So clear to a flight level, set standard.
Standard passing flight level 26.
Check, yeah, standard set passing flight level 29er. And after takeoff checklist, please.
After takeoff checks. Engine bleeds are on, packs, auto, landing gears up and off, and flaps start up, no lights after takeoff checks complete.
Happy to release the cabin crew, Ollie, if you are.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Cabin crew released.
So obviously, like in a normal flight, we would not be discussing much at this level. It's sterile cockpit environment unless it's due to the actual flight or flight safety. But just for the viewers' perspective, we're both monitoring the aircraft engine, the climb rate, other aircraft, the heading. Make sure that we're actually sticking to the SID itself. You can see the terrain off to your left there, can't you?
Yeah. You've got the pleasure of seeing this in real life.
Yeah. So I'm just monitoring the rate of climb here. We've quite a lot of power. It's coming up to 2,000 feet to level off, and we're doing just shy under 3,000 feet per minute. So probably what I would do is I would probably go into vertical speed.
MCP speed, vertical speed.
And just lower that nose, lower that rate of climb, because well, it's just good airmanship really.
Yeah.
If there's other aircraft nearby, the last thing we want in this stage in a busy terminal area is to be getting TCAS advisories and that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%.
So as we get to 1,000 feet to level off, I'll be aiming for roughly around 1,000 feet per minute climb rate.
So 1,000 feet to level off.
Check. And if you can request further climb then?
Yeah. FlyMe 123, request further climb, flight level 200. On flight level 200, FlyMe 123, so we've got flight level 200, that's cleared, so...
Okay, so... flight level 200 set.
That's checked.
So we're continuing the climb now all the way up to flight level 200. And probably because we've checked that in the FMC, we can go back into VNAV now.
N1 VNAV speed.
Yeah. And you can see, I don't know if you viewers can see in the background, the speed is set to be 250 up until flight level 100. Then we've got a target speed of 288. You can just see it's changed to magenta.
Yeah, check.
So now the aircraft is targeting 288. You can already see part of the arrival, so it's quite a short flight. Yeah.
And have flights too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so once we get above flight level 100, the lights go out and seatbelts. Yeah, I'm happy for the passengers to have a quick leg stretch, but it will only be very quick, won't it?
Yeah, very quick. Literally a stretch.
And you can see on the display there the TC, that's the projected top of climb, and the green banana there, which is showing when we're expected to get to our cleared flight level, which is 200.
It's checked. Start to see some islands in the distance. Actually, yeah.
That's it. And I may well let just VNAV handle this level off because see there's no other aircraft around.
Yeah, checked.
We're at higher levels, so.
1,000 feet to level off.
Check.
Not be up here very long.
No, we'll have to get busy.
Yeah.
Just monitor this level off, and then we'll quickly adjust the arrival.
FMC speed, VNAV pass.
Check. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the target speed.
Checked.
Just to buy us a couple more minutes. Whenever the thrust levers are moving, always cover them with your hand just to make sure that they're doing exactly what you expect. Okay, so speed's coming back there, 250 knots. We're at flight level 200, which is what we've planned at.
Checked.
As briefed earlier. So at this stage, if it was on a longer sector, I would speak to the passengers on board. Obviously, we discuss certain things. We discuss a brief. Any issues on the, for instance, if we're flying over the Pyrenees or the Himalayas, we'd be discussing terrain and that kind of thing. But on this particular flight, nice weather, short hop across the Med. There's not much to discuss, is there, in relation to terrain?
No, I've not got anything to note.
So we would again check the arrival, legs and distances. Would you want to do that?
Yep. So we're Godox 3 mic.
That's the one we're expecting, yeah. Godox 3 mic.
That's checked. So Godox 3 mic, it'll be a flight level 100 or above at Godox.
Check.
So presume we'll aim to be at 100 for that. Then routing is to Rupit, and that's 079 degrees.
Yeah.
Then to
might have to start a descent actually.
Yeah.
So if you request descent, then down to flight level 100 initially.
FlyMe 123, request descent flight 100, sun flight 100, FlyMe 123.
So flight level 100.
Just checked. And we'll note where we got to with the...
Yeah.
We may as well just cover it from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start as descent there. We're still discussing the... Actually, I might just bring the speed back a little bit more as well, just to keep things under control.
MCP speed.
Check. Yep, so go on, sorry.
Yep, so it's Godox flight level 100 or above. Then it's a right turn to Rupit.
Yep.
Then a further turn to Alpha Delta X-ray.
Yeah.
And that'll be at 5,000 feet.
That checks with the plate, yeah.
And then it'll be onto the ILS Delta 143 Charlie. And it's the ILS today. We're expecting runway 06 left.
Yep. Yeah.
And do you want to cover that plate, or it's up to?
Yeah, you can cover it with what we've got in the FMC. Obviously, we're checking the ILS's program correctly as well, with the correct glide slope, the correct checkpoints on the way in, and even the missed approach as well. We discussed that. Yeah.
So we'll be inbound from the Alpha Delta X-ray.
Yeah.
Which could even put in actually. I'll pop it in mine, and we'll just go ADF. ADF 1. So I'll just pop that in now. It's 384. I'm going to go ADF 1, and that's available your side for you when you want that. And for the arrival then, inbound from the Alpha Delta X-ray to Delta 143 Charlie, and Delta 245 November to the Charlie Foxtrot for 06 left.
Yep.
1,900 feet. Foxtrot 06 left, and then direct to the runway. As we said, platform altitude 1,700.
Yeah, platform. Yeah, initially 1900.
Initially 19,
then down to 17. Yeah, we were expecting to pick up the glide around 5.1.
That's checked. Localizer 110.9. If you're happy,
that,
I'll transfer that over my side.
And what do you make the minimums to be then?
Minimums today. So standby.
So we're going to make the 3% climb gradient there, aren't we?
Yeah. So we're category C today, so it'll be 274.
Yeah, so we can set that now. So we've discussed the approach. We're happy with what's in the FMC.
Inbound course 058.
Yeah, agreed. And you discussed the miss as well, didn't we?
No, we'll go through that now. So there's a misapproach and then a misapproach with lost comms. So if you're happy for that, we'll brief that. An MSA for our sector's 5,000 feet.
Agreed. With nice visual conditions.
Yeah. So for the misapproach, it will be climb direct to the Juliet Oscar Alpha VOR.
Yeah.
And then it'll be a left-hand turn, max 185 knots.
Yeah.
And follow the radial 026 Juliet Oscar Alpha.
Yeah.
To D7.5 Juliet Oscar Alpha.
Yeah.
Or D14.7 Mike Juliet Victor.
Yeah.
Right-hand turn, max 210 knots.
Yeah.
To intercept and follow the radial 268 inbound to the Charlie Delta Papa VOR. Maintain max 2,000 feet until D20 on the Charlie Delta Papa, then continue climb to 3,000 feet and wait for ATC instructions.
That's exactly what we see here early in the FMC. So we've
That's
checked
checked.
that what the aircraft is expected to do in the event of a missed approach is what the standard missed is. Obviously it might not be standard, ATC might just vector us off anyway, but if ATC says standard missed approach, we know that we're happy to follow and utilise the LNAV in the FMC. Quite happy to do that.
And just to correct myself on the MSA, it's actually 3,000 feet for us.
Correct, yeah.
Not 5.
Yeah. 5,000's to the northwest, isn't it?
Yeah, that's checked.
Okay, so that's that covered. Obviously, speak to passengers. We've been giving cabin crew enough notification for arrival so they can prepare the cabin.
If you're happy, we'll go seatbelts.
Yeah. I'd run through a brief really in the cruise at some point.
And it might be worth popping in the Juliet Oscar Alpha in standby, just in case that misapproach.
117.
Decimal 7.
Yeah.
That's checked.
Would you obviously pick the 80 sub, or you would as pilot monitoring for not only as destination but as alternate, which today is Mahon in Menorca.
Yeah, we've got the plates for that as well.
We've got the plates for that. We could even put that into Route 2 if we wished.
Yes.
But we've got plenty of fuel, so it's always a good idea to utilise Route 2, but we would have time, wouldn't we, to do that if we needed it. So again, I'd cover it, the brief from a formal point of view, status of the aircraft, weather we've discussed, no TAMS, nothing particular for Palma today, or as alternate. We've always got to think of Plan B and even Plan C. And then there's no surprises, is there? So. Yeah, no TAMS. Fuel, we've got ample fuel. We could sit in the hole for hours, couldn't we? So it's not an issue.
And what water break are you happy to take today?
We would have both checked performance. We've discussed based on the weather, based on his weight, based on the runway we're going to be using. Assume we've done that and it comes up with a typical day with this temperature, this weight. Say auto brake 3 for Palma, so I'm happy to set auto brake 3. You would quickly do a quick procedure with regards to the aircraft, so fuel pumps, obviously they're still on, landing altitude, that kind of thing, inbound courses, auto brake. We discussed this, you'd put the speeds in for the approach, so you can do that for us.
As you said, we would have done this with performance anyway, so a bit non-standard.
It's a bit non-standard, but we're just trying to keep it interesting for the viewers, aren't we?
So we'll say we got the 30 speed with a VREF of 151, and we'll decide on the wind correction.
Hopefully the weather's nice.
Yeah.
So we can see initially we were going to be all that. It was we weren't particularly rushed because we'd slowed down and we'd started the descent early.
Checked.
So you can utilise, as long as there's no speed restrictions or air traffic tell you otherwise. Why not go slower? You don't want to be rushing into a hold, and we're saving fuel as well, aren't we? So Godoc's here, start of the star. And that's flight level 100 or above. We can see that's there, and we can see that we're going to be above that because we're only cleared down to 100. So yeah, they can go on as we're cleared down. You've strapped the passengers in, yeah?
Yeah, back in there.
I suppose then in that case, could I have the descent checklist, please?
Yes, you can indeed. Descent checklist. Pressurisation is on altitude 50.
Yep.
That's set. Recall.
Yeah, it's checked.
That's checked. Auto brake is 3. Landing data.
So VREF 30151, minimums Barrow 274.
VRF 30151, minimums Barrow 274. And approach briefing.
It was brief, but are you happy with what we've discussed?
Yeah, we're happy with that. So that's the descent checklist complete.
Perfect, thank you. So the next checklist will be the approach checklist. That's when we cleared, well, below 10,000, then we cleared to an altitude.
Checked.
So after Godox, as you said, Rupert, speed limit point there as well, did you see? So it's 230 knots,
checked.
and that's in there as well.
FlyMe 123, descend 4,000 feet. Descend 4,000 feet, FlyMe 123.
So 4,000.
That's checked.
4,000 feet is set.
That's checked.
So set QNH.
Set QNH.
QNH 1021, passing altitude 11,100 feet.
QNH 1021 are passing altitude 11,020 feet.
Check.
1,000 feet it wouldn't have been.
So now, even though we had this Godox restriction, 10,000 or above, ATC have cleared us beyond that. So technically, we're actually off the arrival now.
Checked, yeah. Still looking nice in VNAV though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So we've got the speed window open there. There's a threat there, Ollie, for me, so just be aware of that for us. But we can actually speed up slightly now, can't we?
Yeah, we've got 250, but we may as well stay at 230. Yeah.
In fact, I'll go close the speed window. We'll go back into FMC speed.
FMC speed.
Check.
And that's now closed. Our next speed restriction after Godox will be 230.
Check.
Which VNAV should put in, but we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we'll always monitor it.
Checked.
Anything up here, particularly with the altitude, Ollie, you know, we're setting it, but actually what the aircraft is going to do, we need to be confirming it with what's shown on the
Don't
PFD.
want any complacency.
No. So setting 4,000 there is, let's go alt intervene with that.
Checked.
Setting 4,000 there, we cross-check it with the PFDs.
Checked.
So we're below 10,000, we are cleared to an altitude, so can I have approach checklist, please?
Approach checklist. Altimeters.
1021.
1021.
Approach checklist complete, thanks. Yeah, the reason the aircraft just sort of started to level off there was because in the FMC we still had that flight level 100 or above at Godox, but because ATC had cleared us lower, I had to tell the aircraft that we were able to go lower, so I just pressed the alt intervene button there.
And for vacating for my
yeah,
issue,
good point. Yeah,
we'll take November 3. That looks good. High speed.
November 3 on runway 06.
Yeah, 06 left. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't got the tax. Yeah. So November, which one did you say?
I've looked on it. I've got November 3. Looks pretty good.
Think we'll make that?
Yeah, it should be.
You think? Oh, if not, we'll have to go to November 1 because either November. I think November 2 might be. November 3 might be a bit tight on 06 left.
November 2 looks.
Yeah. Either November 2 or November 1. Do you think?
Checked.
Yeah, you happy with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can see the VNAV profile now has popped up.
Yes, that's checked.
We're below the profile at the minute, so not a bad place to be.
And we have got a bit of a hot spot at November 2.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And you can probably anticipate why that might be. That's probably because there might be aircraft coming down from November 1.
Yep.
Us vacating, there's a potential clash point there, so be good eyes out. So a quick review then. It's always good to review, particularly on shorter sectors when things are busy. Have we done everything? Are we up to date? Is there anything else we can do? Can't think of much at the minute, can you?
No, we've covered. We're all the way down to the approach checklist, which is done.
We don't know exactly where we're parking, but
yeah,
based on previous experience, could be somewhere along there, Romeo 5 or Lima Echo Whiskey, around that area.
Yeah, stand 18 or 20, something like that. And VNAV has bugged the 240 knots.
Perfect. So, Rupit 4,000 or above.
So we're nice and ahead with that.
Because we started the descent early, really, as well. Which is fine, you know, we've got plenty of fuel. Probably not the most efficient, but it's better than being too high and too fast.
Today's interactive purposes, it makes it better.
You can just about see.
Yeah, I've got something,
yeah. So according to the FMC, 38 miles to run to the Alpha Delta X-ray NDB.
Checked.
Just shallow that down a bit, the rate of descent.
Yeah, that's checked. Nice idea. MCP speed, vertical speed.
Check.
That's worked.
I mean, it's good to be below the profile, but we don't want to be like constantly dragging the aircraft in from Mars.
Forecasted that to be pretty spot on.
Yeah. What, the banana?
Yeah. So that radial's just popped in on my side.
I see that, it's same my side, Still no DME on the ILS showing?
No, not yet. Keep an eye on that.
So unless we're told otherwise from ATC, as you can see, the approach takes us from the NDB Alpha Delta X-ray down on this course here, 143, and then a left-hand turn picking up the inbound course for the ILS 058. We've checked that already, but for the viewers. Obviously, in real life, it's probably be getting vectors straight to the ILS, I would have thought. For the sim purpose, we'll do
my shoddy vectors.
Say again?
My shoddy vectors. I've still got terrain on my side, and
I've got the same actually. No, there's no weather around, is there? So. Just ask ATC if we've got any speed restrictions.
FlyMe 123, any speed restrictions? Negative, FlyMe 123.
Okay, I'll speed up slightly then, 250 knots below flight level 100. It's always good to ask because they've got the big picture, you know, that we don't know. There might be an aircraft that's inbound from the north that we're not aware of that they're going to try and squeeze in before us. So they would probably tell us, but it's still a good idea to ask.
Checked. You should be pretty current with this flight then.
Fairly, it's not that long ago since we did it. Different runway though, so.
Is it?
It's been a while since I last landed on this one. Right, anything
we can do? All the way down to the approach checklist, which has been done. Speed's 250. So we'll need to bring that back at some point.
We'll need to slow down as well, won't we, at some point? Yeah. I mean, we're going to be getting to 4,000 feet soon, so we can slow down at that point.
Yeah, of course.
Quite right though. We could easily start slowing down now.
But don't need to.
You can see the D-cell point that's just popped up there.
Yeah, that's checked.
And that's based on what we have in the FMC. So 2 runways at Palma, which is good from our point of view. It means we've got 2 options.
Yeah, really good.
We haven't had any NOTAMs told us that either of them are closed, so it would be a very bad day if we ended up in Mahon. But you never know, do you? You've got to have a plan B and a plan C, even a plan D, really.
E.
Plan E, yeah. You can never have too many plans.
No. So do they use one for an arrival and one for departure then? Or
Generally, yeah. Usually opposite. So we landed on 06 left this time, so it'd be the other runway for departures.
Yeah.
I'll start bringing the speed back now. We're no longer in. So it's me that's controlling the speed now.
We've got free speed anyway.
We have got free speed. Check. So you can see as we level off now and the aircraft pitches up, that speed will quickly wash off.
VNAV profile's coming in nicely now.
Yeah.
I think there was some weird restrictions there. How it had 4,000 at repit, but 5,000 at...
Yeah. Oh, the 5,000 and above.
Yeah.
The ATC have cleared us down there, haven't they?
Yeah.
We are visual. So the north part of the island there is the hilly side. You can just about see that coming up on the left.
MSA is 3,000 anyway, so we're above that still.
And the runway will be off essentially at my 2 o'clock point.
Yeah, I'm not quite visual yet.
You can see just for the old school instruments, the Alpha Delta X-ray is tuned.
Check.
And the NDB there, the blue course point is pointing straight ahead, which is always nice to check. So any particular speed restrictions around this corner that you can see?
So we've got Alpha Delta X-ray 250.
We're well below that now, aren't we?
Yeah. We're pretty much all good until the approach now for speed, apart from Delta 245 November. But in fact, we're still good for that as well. So all the way onto the.
So we'd expect to join
approach.
The localizer roughly on about 9 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not the most efficient approach we've done there, because obviously now we're dragging in. The idea being that we'd like to do a constant descent approach, yes, or a CDA, continuous descent. So essentially from the top of climb or to the cruise point, if you can, all the way down to touchdown. Essentially, that's what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
Thrust levers at idle, and you're just using gravity to bring you down.
Yeah.
Obviously, better for the environment, better for the aircraft, and cheaper.
And I've got Papa Lima Mike identified my side.
Yeah, it's just flagged up my side. Yeah, Papa Lima Mike 058 at 20 DME now.
That's the same for me, 058 90.9.
Sure. So Alpha Delta X-ray is coming up. We've got a good visual. We can see the high ground here. So we're safer off to the right, and that's where the approach is going to take us. So as we get to the Alpha Delta X-ray, what I'll probably do is I'll start configuring with flat 1 and flat 5, reducing the speed. So I'll go flat 1 now then, please. Check. And we'll bring the speed back as the flaps. Check that the flaps are travelling, which they are, and we bring the speed back to flat 1 speed.
That's checked. We should expect clearance to 1900 by air traffic when we get around half Delta X-ray-ish.
Can we request further descent actually?
Yep. FlyMe 123, request further descent. FlyMe, I'm not good at a Spanish accent. FlyMe 123, descend 1,700 feet, you are cleared ILS approach, runway 06 left.
1,700.
1,700 feet, cleared ILS approach, runway 06 left, FlyMe 123. Vertical speed.
Check. Flat 5 then please. And we check that the flat moves as we expect, so we set flat 5 speed.
And we clear the ILS.
Clear the ILS as well, excellent. You can already see that below the glide, so we're
VNAV's back now.
VNAV's back anyway, yeah.
And we've got that descent going again.
Yeah. So we are cleared for the approach, aren't we? So I'll just monitor this. We're cleared all the way down to 1700 and for the approach.
For the platform.
Check. Just shallow that rate to descend down because we're already below the glide path, aren't we?
That's checked.
May as well try and make it semi-efficient.
I think I've just got visual.
A visual? Yep. Yeah. Still got the Papa Lima Mike identified 12.7, 12.16. So your visual, the profile looks good. Localizer and the glide slope makes sense for what we can see at the minute. We are cleared for the approach, so happy to arm the approach.
Right.
You can see Vorlock and glide slopes popped up on the FMA there in white.
Let's check. FlyMe 123, clear land 06 left, surface wind is calm. Clear land 06 left, FlyMe 123. So clear to land.
So yeah, all the lights can go on. Check.
Checked.
So there's the turn inbound.
Vorlock.
Check. Inbound course 05A.
That's checked. Cool, so we're on the approach where we expect to be.
Yep.
That's good. Standing by for the glide.
Say again?
Standing by for the glide.
Yep. Absolutely. So what do you make the missed approach altitude to be?
Missed approach is
initially
2,000.
Initially 2,000, agree. So there's a threat as well in a very early level off there,
yeah.
So have to be aware of that.
Caution the thrust.
So just coming up to 8 miles. Glide slope's just become alive.
Checked.
So you've got the legs page on your side ready to monitor the missed approach if we need it. I've got the approach reference page which shows us the approach speed. That's 6.6 TME, so I'll go gear down, flat 15.
Gear down, flat 15. Glide slope.
Check, and for the missed, as we've just discussed,
Check.
2,000 early level off.
That's checked.
5.9 miles. And flap 30, please.
Flap 30.
And with the calm winds today, I'll set 5 knots above the VREF speed for flap 30, so 155 knots today.
Check.
So whenever you can, Ollie, the approach, the landing checks, please.
Landing checks, send your start switches.
Continuous.
Speed brake.
And
landing gear.
Down.
And flaps.
30 green light.
That's landing checks complete, we're cleared to land.
Cleared to land, roger. Four miles, that checks 1354 we're looking for.
Checks.
Checked. A visual anyway, so it looks sensible. We're on the glide. Check.
1,000 feet stable.
And right, I'll disconnect Ollie. So manual flight.
Flight director.
Manual thrust.
Feet stable.
So as we get nearer the ground, the scan that I'm doing is positioning more to outside the aircraft, but we still look inside, look at the N1 settings.
200.
Check.
Checked.
30, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Speed brakes up. Reverses. Diesel. And 60 knots.
Check.
And I have control.
You have control, thank you. Okay, so this is November
2.
2.
As you said.
So the hot spot, as we're aware, but there's nothing up there, is there, to the right?
Oh no, I'll make it a right.
Yeah.
And we'll find
Switch to ground.
Checked.
121905. I'd be speaking to ground, getting taxi instructions, parking stand.
Right, I'll head straight ahead, next right.
Roger. And as we've come off the runway now, good eyes out. Keep the taxi light on, lights can go off. Lights, 2.
Big 380 though.
Indeed. Anti-ice off.
Quite busy, isn't it?
You happy to get the APU going on?
Yeah, I'm happy for that. Cheers. Looks like a stand available next to this
yeah.
FedEx here.
Very short taxiing, but if it was longer, we'd try and
Single engine.
try and do a single engine taxiing again, just for efficiency. And
Right, stand 28.
check, yeah, you're all clear on the right.
turn the taxi light off now.
Taxi light off. So you can shut down.
Check, shut it down. Oh, seat belts and
yeah, we can let
anti-collision.
them go now. Transponder can go to 2000 now. That's sort of a standby setting. Flight director can go off. We've got the APU and anti-call can go off once the engines shut down below 10%, which they are. So we've got to just put the air on as well, just to keep the cabin cool.
Yeah.
And you can call for the
shutdown checklist.
Yeah. Shutdown checklist then. So fuel pumps set, probeat off, hydraulic panel is set. Flaps
up,
parking brake
is set,
engine start levers
cut off,
and weather radar
is off.
Off my side. The shutdown checklist complete. Just your terrain
Checked.
So that's it. So we're on stand. We'd look at his arrival time. We'd do the paperwork, tech log. We'd have already discussed at some point the return fuel figures that we'd want.
Yeah.
So I'd be filling in the fuel paperwork for that. One of us, me now, because I've flown it out, you'd be flying it back. I would go, that's master caution hydraulic associated with the engine shutdown.
Checked.
I would go speak to the fueler, we'd liaise with the dispatcher, see if there's any delays, potentially even speak to ops. They might want us to go somewhere else now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah, so you would, I'd leave the aircraft, leave the flight deck, sorry, you would do the setup for the return leg, and we would essentially do exactly the same again for the return flight back. Just in reverse, so I'd be pilot monitoring and you'd be pilot flying.
Awesome.
Any questions? I think we've covered everything there.
I think
a couple of things disjointed, but I think we covered
for the
majority of the stuff. Yeah.
For keeping it.
Obviously, some things we can't do
polished,
for like the performance and whatnot, but
yeah.
We've mentioned where we would be doing the performance, that kind of thing. The approach worked out all right, didn't it? We kept the speed back. I think you identified it actually very early on before we left Alicante. One of the biggest threats is the length of the sector. I don't know how long we've been going there.
46 minutes.
So ideally, yeah. So
and chatting and stuff.
It's a very, very quick sector. So how did we mitigate that? Well, straight away, slowed down, early descent, kept everything nice and under control. Because the last thing you want to be doing is arriving at top of descent having covered all the brief. Actually, you're too high, too fast. You can't slow down. As it worked out, we were probably slightly lower than we could have been for efficiency, but it worked out visually anyway, didn't it? We could see the island well. Turning from Alpha Delta X-ray worked well. Flap 5 onto the localizer. And configuration wise, I mean that depends on where you're going. Some airfields may want you to keep certain speeds. Palma is one of them actually, where they like set speed profiles at different distances. But they give us free speed today, so we did essentially what we wanted.
Shoddy air traffic control. But yeah,
it all went well. That
hope everyone enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That was.
Can I come again?
Yeah. No. So Alicante to Palma, 46 minutes.
Yeah.
Hope everyone learned something from real world experience.
Well, it's a very it's as accurate really as it's the first time we've flown together, Ollie, in here. So it's as accurate as we can make it at this stage. You know, a very realistic flight level and a very realistic time. I think 46 minutes would probably be about what it would be. So
so
hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah, if you could like, subscribe, hit the bell.
That's it. Yeah.
And we'll catch you later. Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much.